and welcome to Microsoft Ignite and Microsoft Envision. I'm Julia White, and I'm honored to be your host all week. That means I'm here for you, listening to you, connecting with you as many as possible, and sharing insights from across Microsoft. The Microsoft Ignite and Microsoft Envision represent the intersection of technology and business. And whether you're a technologist or a business leader, you know that every organization is becoming technology-driven. This week, we are excited to experience together the very best of both worlds. Assembled here in Orlando are 30,000 technologists and business leaders representing nearly 5,000 organizations from across the world. For all of you, this week is about learning and connecting, about gaining new skills, seeing new ideas, and ultimately about your growth professionally and personally. The statement that change is the only constant is so true in technology. And that's what makes it such a fantastic industry to work in, because it's always changing, solving problems in new, innovative ways, unlocking possibilities we previously only imagined. But we also know that embracing this change can be challenging. At Microsoft, we work hard every day to have a growth mindset, having that learn-it-all mentality versus a know-it-all mentality, and being open to new ideas and resisting that urge to dismiss something that's different from your own. It is the same mindset I encourage all of you to have as you're learning about the new technologies, as you're sharing with each other your best practices and ideas. This week is really about considering what is possible. And ultimately, this week is about you, increasing your personal skills, growing your professional network, achieving your organization's goals. And we're all in this together. All of us at Microsoft work hard every day to achieve our stated mission of empowering people and organizations across the globe to achieve more. This means empowering you through our technology and our partnership. That is where our mission comes to life. That's why all of us are here this week. We're here for you. So please stop and ask that speaker a question, join a community network event, and engage with this incredible set of technology and business leaders from Microsoft and across the globe that are all here this week. We're going to kick things off today hearing from Satya about the role of technology in the world today, Microsoft's part in sharing that, and sharing some great customer experiences. This is a key theme at Microsoft Envision and Microsoft Ignite, is sharing your stories. And we're so grateful for many of the customers who came from a broad range of industries who are here sharing your stories at the conference. With our mission to empower every person, we recognize the importance of diversity and inclusion to achieve this mission. This has been a key focus for us over the past several years, and we continue to grow the program this year. Each day this week, we'll have Empower Lunches featuring great speakers and focusing on important topics such as mental health awareness, telling your diversity story, and empowering diverse leadership. We also have 3 diversity-focused community meetups: Parents in Tech, Women's in Tech, along with their allies, all people are welcome, and diversity and inclusion strategies. I challenge you to discover how you can support and promote greater inclusion in technology and business. Thank you for spending time away from your families and homes. I hope you have a fantastic week. Let me know what you think. It's time to kick off Microsoft Ignite and Microsoft Envision. Let's get it started.
Good morning. Good morning and welcome. Welcome to Orlando. Welcome to Ignite and Envision. It's a very special conference. We have over 30,000 of you here. And what makes it really special is the fact that we have business leaders, IT professionals, and developers all coming together to envision what's possible in the future, but more importantly, to build those skills and ideas, even in this conference, to make that future a reality. Talking about the future, we are well and truly into this era of the intelligent cloud and the intelligent edge. This is an amazing time for us to be in any industry thinking about digital technology. I mean, what's really happening out there is computing is getting embedded in the real world. Every place, whether it be the home or work or a stadium or a hospital, has got computing. Every industry, whether it's oil and gas, retail, financial services, agri-tech, all are being transformed by digital technology. Everything, whether it's a car or a refrigerator or the factory floor, are getting connected and becoming intelligent. That's the rich world of computing. Computing is not just about the computer industry, it is about the entire world. And this computing power is being used to generate that next generation of AI-driven business process, that next generation of multi-sense, multi-device experiences that are much more people-centric. That's the richness, that's the opportunity that's ahead of us. Now, in order for us to capitalize on this paradigm shift, we need tech intensity. It's a simple concept. In fact, you can think of it as a very simple equation. Each of us has to do really two things. One is we need to make sure that we are adopting the latest and greatest technology. And second, we've got to build our own digital capability. Irrespective of which industry you're in, you're a digital business. And you need to do both. Adopt technology, build technology. Now, there are a couple of nuances, though, critical nuances. For example, if you spend a lot of your energy and time and money building some capability, thinking that's unique to you, except it's available as a commodity from someone else, then that could be a big mistake, because you would have wasted a lot of time and energy and money. So you want to make sure that you're focused on the things that truly make you unique. There is also one other strategic mistake you could make. If you're dependent on a provider who, through some game theoretic construct, is providing you a commodity on one end only to compete with you on another end, then you could be making another strategic mistake. So picking your partners well is where I think the strategic definition of being smart will really come through. So to me, these nuances are super important, and we can in fact go back in history. I think it was 1882 when Thomas Edison first put together these electric stations. He was selling electricity as a commodity as way back in 1882 in both New York City as well as in London. But the picture here is actually an automaker using steam power. Because steam had amazing staying power. It sort of, in spite of electricity being available, everyone who had a steam plant would question, what do I do with this new factor of production or this change in technology? Do I really need it? Can I fit it into what I already am doing? I have all this capital. How do I make sure that I don't have to replace all this capital before it's depreciated? I mean, all the things that we talk about even sometimes today, right? It was true in 1800s. In fact, at 1900s, only around 5% of the factory power was electric. But all this began to change. In 1910, Ford came up with a new plant in their Highland Park plant to make Model Ts, because they needed to really change the game in terms of their own production throughput. And so they came up and built this new plant, completely envisioned what electricity could mean to the factory floor, right? And the fascinating thing to me as I read about this was they didn't just think about the factory floor, but they thought about all aspects of it. In fact, they changed the car. The electric start became like one of the killer features. So the fact that they were able to rethink everything from their operations to the factory floor using a new factor of production, a new source of energy, I think changed the game. In fact, the fast followers, whether it's Chrysler, General Motors, all of them were also able to take advantage of this and be very competitive. At the same time, there were many companies, Stanley Motors, Locomobile, Clark, didn't make the transition and they just disappeared. So that's the stakes. Those are the stakes for how we all have to evolve with tech intensity. And to us, for us at Microsoft, we are grounded in our mission to really empower you with that tech intensity. Our mission is to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more, and that means we want to empower you with that tech intensity. Whether you're a small business, a large multinational, or a public sector institution, our goal is to ensure that we give you the digital technology. We want to do this at a global scale, and most importantly, our success is fundamentally dependent on your success. That's at the core of our business model. That's what engenders the trust long term. We are building all of the solution areas that this conference we're going to talk about to ride this next massive platform shift of the intelligent cloud, intelligent edge. Whether it's modern life to modern work, to data and AI, to applications and infrastructure, all business applications, all of these solution areas are foundationally driving this next paradigm to ultimately, though, help you with the digital transformational outcomes. And we see this in action today. You know, one of the greatest privileges for me is to be able to meet with customers, learn from them, how they are taking advantage of digital technology to not only transform themselves, but in many cases, transform their industries. Take Royal Dutch Shell. Oil and gas is an industry that always is changing. It's very dynamic. You know, if you talk about an industry that changes every day because of what's happening in the commodity prices, this is the industry. Right? So they have to be very nimble, very agile in terms of their operational efficiency, as well as go find new sources of energy. And what's happening at Royal Dutch in terms of AI is pretty amazing, which is they've got a very deliberate strategy of using AI across their entire operation. Drilling, which is a very high precision, high stakes operation, they've already built AI capability of their own. In fact, they've used a lot of the data, built this AI system that in fact guides the drill, and they've also adopted the latest and greatest technology in reinforcement learning. We bought a company called Bonsai a couple of months ago. They've partnered with Bonsai to essentially take machine teaching and reinforcement learning and scale their drilling operations throughout. They also partnered with another company, C3 IoT, who's a partner of Azure for IoT preventive maintenance. So they want to be able to really connect all of the equipment that's there, have the data streamed, and to convert that into preventive maintenance, predictive power. They also are taking computer vision technology to all the stations they run. They're experimenting with this in Asia Pacific today, but plan to roll it out in other places because safety is critical. So just imagine having commodity cameras everywhere and being able to have computer vision algorithms that are deployed using Azure IoT runtimes on the edge so that you can observe what's happening. And if there's any dangerous activity happening, you get an immediate alert to the local operator. So this is pretty amazing to see how AI is being used every day from the drilling operations to safety in any of the Shell stations. CBRE is in real estate business. They manage over 5 billion square feet. And real estate is changing. The nature of work is changing. The expectations of people who are in these spaces with things like open office, changing demographics. So it's an industry that needs to evolve by really giving more and more control to both the tenants and the facility managers. And so what CBRE has done is built a new service called CBRE 360. This solution is a software product, right? So this is a facilities business with a software product, and the software product was built on top of the Azure Digital Twin service, right? So it's a great example of taking a commodity input and building your value add. And what this twin does is it takes people, space, and things and creates a simulation, essentially, a digital artifact that simulates the interactions in a space between people and things. So that means you can start reasoning. So you can imagine the software solution that you can create that gives the tenants, the facility managers, all the control they need to manage everything from the temperatures to control the flows, and also help people schedule meetings. So it's fascinating to see how the software product that they've built goes way beyond just facilities management, because they now can, in fact, participate in the digital transformational outcomes of their customers. Now, another example is Bühler. Bühler is based out of Switzerland, and they are really critical for the food safety in the world. Something like 500 million people are susceptible to toxins in food, or even just very low levels of toxins in food. So that means food safety is a pretty critical priority for us in the world. And it turns out Bühler has an amazing structural position because something like 65% of the world's grain passes through their machines. It's pretty stunning to think of that. So now just imagine if you can use the latest and greatest in computer vision technology to be able to detect any of the aflatoxins early in the supply chain or in the food chain. And that's exactly what they're doing. So they're using Azure AI and computer vision, have this fitted into their machines, and they're going after that classic needle in the haystack challenge, which is to find that toxin in a truckload of corn and to ensure that it doesn't pass through to the grocery shelf near you. But they're not stopping there. In fact, they're partnering with Whitworth Brothers, which is one of the largest wheat millers in the United Kingdom, and bringing an industry blockchain so that you can have complete traceability. Right? So this is another way for us to ensure that there's true food safety. So they're transforming their business with AI, they're transforming the industry with a trusted blockchain. BMW. Now, iconic brand, the ultimate driving machine, and one of the major considerations for anybody who is a consumer brand today is how can they ensure that they remain in control of that brand experience, even as the experience itself is being transformed into a digital experience. Every consumer brand will care deeply about making sure that they are in control of that. And in fact, the brand association of what happens in a BMW car has to remain with BMW. That's the core of the value proposition. So what they're doing is they're building an intelligent agent, which is going to be branded BMW. And they're using all of the Azure AI capabilities, from the bot framework to the cognitive services for voice, for the dialogue management. But the agent itself is BMW's own agent. They're not letting anybody else just disintermediate them. That's really, I think, strategy at work. They're going to allow access. They're going to allow access to Skype. They're going to allow access to Cortana. They're going to allow access to Alexa, what have you. But it's all going to be under the terms of their brand experience. That, to me, is how every consumer brand needs to be thinking about going forward if they need to remain relevant. H&M in retail, out of Sweden, second largest fashion retailer, is transforming their operations, both offline and online. In fact, in their New York store, which is one of their flagship stores, they have this mirror, which is an AI-driven mirror, which is using, again, speech and vision to really help their consumers passing through the store really get familiar with all the fashion. But one of the things that they're also doing is they're launching new brands. In fact, they launched a new brand recently called They Found, which is off-price brand, and they needed to move with agility and speed. So they decided to build the entire brand from scratch on the cloud. They're using Azure and Dynamics 365 to be able to do that. So that speed with which they're moving with new brands, the way they're transforming their retail operations, are all accruing to their margin and profitability. Eli Lilly. Now, this is a fascinating story for me because we know healthcare is perhaps, in every economy, one of the most important sectors. And especially if we want to think about our overall GDP growth. Take in the United States, 18% of the GDP is healthcare. So any change to productivity and efficiency for us could make a major difference in our economy. And that opportunity is something that the CIO and the CEO of Eli Lilly see very deeply. But one thing that they sort of realized was, in order for them to be the proponents of change, which is industry-wide, they needed to change internally. They needed to, in fact, set that agenda of how even workflows happen, because, in fact, a lot of the healthcare cost is in the workflows that really have to come together to help anyone who needs the help in healthcare. So what they decided was to use Microsoft 365, everything from Outlook to Yammer to Teams to SharePoint, to ensure that their professionals across the board were able to collaborate in new ways, to bring new solutions to the marketplace. So it's a complete cultural transformation internally as a means for them to change the industry. Now, it's not just knowledge work that's being transformed. When you think about the next major shift in productivity in the world, we have 2 billion plus first-line workers. And for the first time, in fact, one of the most exciting things is to see how technology is making a massive difference. Whether you're a retail specialist or someone who is on the shop floor, you equip them with technology, you can absolutely see a marked difference in your productivity. ZF, a German high-end transmissions manufacturer, has provided their frontline workers on the shop floor HoloLenses. They use this HoloLens for training. They use it for remote assistance. In fact, these are all the applications that recently launched in Dynamics. So this is a way for any frontline worker to be able to get to an expert in the headquarters and ensure that the factory floor is always working. So there's no stoppage time. So that level of efficiency is what we can achieve by ensuring that everybody, whether it's the knowledge worker or the first-line worker, has the latest and greatest in technology. These are some of the examples that we see already. This is tech intensity in practice. Now, I want to shift gears to talk a little bit about what's next. How do we as a tech industry push the envelope when it comes to the next generation of technology that can further help accelerate your tech intensity? Because that's really the name of the game. The most important consideration, when I spend time with many of you, the most important consideration in terms of a digital transformational outcome is how can you continually improve that engagement with customers. That's something that I hear all the time. Now, I think that we can do something pretty dramatic and different when it comes to customer engagement. And to help me talk about this, I wanted to introduce two of my friends, the CEO of SAP, Bill McDermott, and CEO of Adobe, Shantanu Narayan, up on stage. Thank you so much, Bill and Shantanu, for being here. In fact, I think it was 3 years ago, right here in Orlando, that I joined you at a Sapphire conference, and I think you were here in Atlanta, really, at our Ignite conference 2 years ago. And quite frankly, we have done so much together.
Yes.
Even in the last, although we've been working for decades, but in the last multiple years, I think we collectively have worked with so many of the customers represented here on their digital transformation journeys. And we've learned so much in terms of how they think about what are the opportunities around customer engagement and what's really even in some sense needed in order for them to keep pushing. You know, when you think about the customers at the center, the thing that perhaps more than anything else that we've learned is the data that is available in every company around the customer is super rich, right? You have all this behavioral data that comes from web and mobile. There is IoT data. Many of them are building products that are collecting data, the services that are collecting data. There is also obviously all the transactional information in ERP and CRM systems. So clearly there's a big data opportunity, except there is this what I describe as a small data challenge. That is, all of this data is now trapped in silos, many of them internal, also external silos, because you have these advertising, social, and other marketplaces where that data is opaque. So the real challenge is to be able to bring all this data together so the companies are in control. And so what we are excited today is to announce a new initiative. So Adobe, Microsoft, and SAP are coming together to really unleash a new era of the open data. And so the Open Data Initiative is something that we are very, very excited about, what it could do to unlock the true potential of all customer data for every brand out there. And when this all came about, Bill, in fact, I think when you picked up the phone and called both Shantanu and me, and said, hey, there's a real opportunity I see for us. And maybe you can share a little bit about what was that motivation behind all of this.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, Satya, thank you for having me today. And making a phone call to two great friends is a pretty easy thing to do. That's the most important thing, friendship and trust. It creates a lot of opportunity. When you think about the marketplace out there, we're in the midst, as you rightfully pointed out in your keynote, of a customer-driven growth revolution. Every single company is going through a digital transformation, or should be, because their consumer is mobile, they're social, they're operating in all channels, and they're on the fly. So you have to be geospatially in tune with them. And no longer will they tolerate companies that don't get it. And getting it means the data can't be trapped in a silo, because we now have to connect the end-to-end consumer experience, from the demand chain all the way through to the supply chain in real time. So CEOs in boardrooms around the world are saying, give me a single view of my consumer. Without which you're unlikely to win in this new economy. So you have to have the data, and it has to be open. So I thought when we talked on the phone, it would be really great to take the market-leading companies, Microsoft, Adobe, and SAP, and open the conversation up. So today, I really believe this is a seminal moment in the information technology industry, because now we say to our customers, all of you out there, the data is yours. When you're open, you're prosperous. We want to actually lower the cost of your data. As this data continues to explode, you have every right to want it to be a lower cost operation. And finally, when you think about this open world that we're talking about, we have to be extensible with each other, for and with each other. So these platforms have to work together. And that breaks down the silos. So I think we have started something that's a movement, and I just can tell you all, you can never underestimate the importance of trust and collaboration, because that's where it all started.
No, that's fantastic. I mean, thank you so much for describing what I think are the three core principles around this open data initiative that I think are foundational in putting the customer back in control of their own customer data. Absolutely. And that, I think, is perhaps one of the most important agendas for the industry going forward.
And Satya, as you know, we have to get the inside of these companies and everyone that works inside these companies to think about what's going on outside these companies in service to that consumer. So we're moving from old school CRM to a true customer experience. And that's a big shift.
And talking about that, and I know, Shantanu, you have been a proponent, in fact, for many years now, talking about this emergence of a new category around customer experience. And in fact, many of the customers that we pre-briefed even on what we were doing came about because of the work Adobe has done and SAP has done. So why don't you talk a little bit about how you see the emergence of this new category?
I'm happy to, Satya, and again, thank you for having Bill and me at your conference. It's amazing to be in front of so many great customers. And you're right, 2 years ago, we were both on stage and we talked about how we were going to be standardizing all our cloud platforms on Azure. And the fact that we've had now hundreds of customers adopt what Bill provides with HANA and what you're doing with Azure and what we're doing with the Experience Cloud, I think is just validation of the need for all of these customers to completely reimagine the customer experience. You know, our belief is that every single enterprise has to meet the mandates of their consumers, which require all interactions to be digital. They require them to be personalized. They require them to be relevant.
Right.
And this is where I think the three of us can do some magic with respect to unlocking all of the data that was previously in silos. And so, you know, we think that the time is right because all consumers are buying products, they're not buying experiences. And if we can deliver a new category, which we are calling the customer experience management category, and bring together the ability for people to take all this data, take all of this content, take the AI that you alluded to, and deliver that compelling, personalized, relevant experience across all channels, then they're meeting the needs of the customers. And I think to your point, whether it's Unilever when we briefed them and they said they have billions of consumers using their products every day and they still don't, you know, have that relevant experience with them, or whether it's Walmart and what Walmart is doing with the future of retail, and Coca-Cola, who's trying to completely revolutionize the beverage industry. I think it's when we hear from customers jointly, and we bring together our technology, we can architect this. So I'm really thrilled to be here. I think, you know, the Open Data Initiative really puts the power of your data in your hands, and I think we can together reimagine the customer experience management category.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. And it's such an exciting opportunity, and we can get started today. I mean, that's the reality of it. If you think about it, the architecture here is actually pretty straightforward, which is you have these very sophisticated, rich application suites from SAP, from Adobe, from Microsoft. And the commitment you're hearing from the three of us is that we are going to unlock the data across all of these suites so that they can be enriched using this very rich cloud data and AI layer in Azure, so that you can, in fact, take data that is there today in any application and think of it as a renewable resource. Right, so to me, that's the breakthrough of what we are sort of announcing here, which is there is no data silos. Think of all data as a continuous renewable resource. And by the way, this is not just about us. We want this to be an open framework. We want to invite anyone and customers and others in the tech industry to join the Open Data Initiative so that we can deliver the benefits of this to our customers, so that they're in control of their customer data and can really drive that next generation of the customer experience economy. Thank you so very much, Bill and Shantanu, for being here.
Thanks,
it's a really
everybody.
exciting. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The very best.
We are very, very excited about the potential here of what truly putting customers in control of their own customer data could mean for our entire industry and for our entire economy. Now, I want to talk about one more area, which I think is very critical when it comes to tech intensity. That is security and trust. Because one thing that is uniform and core to all digital transformation journeys is how to ensure more trust and more security in digital technology, because otherwise we can have tremendous amount of friction in how we transform using technology. To that end, our strategy is pretty straightforward. We want to bring three key attributes, three key pillars to ensuring trust and security. First, an operational security posture that we have on behalf of all of your digital estates. I mean, we, on an everyday basis, see 6.5 trillion security signals. Just to sort of emphasize that point again, this is 6.5 trillion security signals that are being processed by us every day. So that's the operational security posture that is used to ensure that every part of your digital estate remains secure on a continuous basis. We translate all of that into products in Microsoft 365, in Azure, in Dynamics. We bring all of these advanced threat protection services. We even, in fact, expose something called the Security Score, which we're going to talk about at this event. All of that are a set of products to help you with trust and security. But we don't stop there. We have partnerships. Partnerships with the rest of the tech industry through something called the Security Graph, because we know we have a heterogeneous world out there that needs to be protected. Partnerships that go even to the legislative process. If you think about what Microsoft did, which is to first move the courts, then to work with legislative process in the United States to bring about the Cloud Act, and now what we're trying to do to ensure that there are bilateral agreements, that's core to trust going forward. Or what the Tech Accord does, which is to be able to bring companies across the tech industry to protect everybody. So partnerships broadly, operational security posture, and products is what all come together to help build trust and security. I think to really bring this out, I want to just talk about a few both product and customer stories. In fact, let's start with the recent announcement of Account Guard. It's a product that's, in fact, in early stages of deployment by politicians standing for election on the federal level and the state level, as well as organizations that are affiliated with political parties, as well as the political parties themselves, to just ensure that their email accounts are secure, because we know that those are some of those most valuable sources of information that are being compromised. But the interesting thing is the story behind this product. It started by us tracking this hacker group called Strontium, and realizing that they were attacking, in fact, our few of the senators, as well as a couple of organizations affiliated with our political parties, the International Republican Institute and the Hudson Institute. And essentially, they had captured a few domains and used those domains to phish. So we figured this out. This is our cybersecurity operations figured this out. Now, the interesting thing is, you just don't stop there. You have to then say, how do I capture those domains back? So we worked with the legal system to create even this special master so that we can have a fast turnaround. So as soon as you detect something that is being misused, like a domain, you need to be able to then capture that domain, and so that you can sinkhole the traffic to the domain so that you don't have this phishing continue. Right? So that's the key to the product. The product itself is the combination of this operational security posture that continuously detecting issues. It also includes these partnerships with whether it's law enforcement or the frame and other organizations to ensure that you can execute on the insight and then protect the user. Now, let's take another example, small businesses. Small businesses, we know, are the most vulnerable because they don't have SecOps inside their organizations. And you could say when you're seeing something like 6.5 trillion events or signals, and you have all this stuff that you can process, you probably can detect big events. But can you detect very targeted attacks? Now, one of the things that's emerging is these very focused, very targeted attacks. Recently, we blogged about this, which is 58, think about this, 58 small businesses in Johnson City, Tennessee, population 60,000, were attacked using a payload called Ursnif, which we've been tracking for a long time. It's essentially basically malware which was coming from as an email from some trusted local business to you as one of the small businesses in this city in Tennessee, and trying to steal information, especially banking information. And so we were able to figure this out. Now you could say, how did that happen? It turns out the machine learning system we have that backs Windows Defender and advanced threat protection is using the latest sophisticated models, but the models have to run with real speed. Because if you think about it, the way antivirus defenders work is they take a kernel lock, and they need a response from the cloud, which is fast, sub-millisecond, so that they can then ensure that there's no performance degradation. So that means you need inference algorithms, which one are sophisticated to detect something like this, which is so targeted, so small, and yet fast. And that's where some of the advances in the core AI infrastructure, whether it's our use of FPGA or our algorithmic progress, is all flowing through to help protect a small business in Johnson City, Tennessee. Now, another area that's really changing is IoT. There are 9 billion microcontrollers that ship. You know, we talk about PCs and phones and speakers, but just to put it in perspective, there are 9 billion other computers, essentially. So these are in your microwave ovens, they're in factory floors, they're in the HVAC systems, everywhere. They're home or on work. You have these IoT devices. These are compute nodes. And so you know that the next attack vector is not going to be in what you consider to be your classic computer. It's going to be in one of these IoT devices. And so we came up with Azure Sphere to ensure that there is end-to-end security, starting with, in fact, the silicon architecture that has the hardware root of trust, a secure operating system that runs on the MCU, with a cloud service that ensures end-to-end security. And now Azure Sphere is ready for adoption by anyone building devices, anybody embedding microcontrollers in their devices. And Eon, which is a European utility serving over 30 countries, has 30 million plus customers, has built a control system using Azure Sphere so that you can ensure end-to-end security. In fact, E.ON, for example, has not just the energy supply, but they also have a solar grid. So you can imagine how to ensure end-to-end protection. You need to make it such that there is no hacking and intercept of the grid by any attacker. So that's the type of security advances that we are seeing. To close it out, I want to talk about a large multinational company, Coca-Cola. Now, Coca-Cola is going through a big transformation journey. Barry Simpson, their CIO, talks very eloquently about what they're doing to transform every aspect of Coca-Cola. Their relationship with their bottlers, how they use technology to transform, in fact, the operations end-to-end, is a fascinating story. But one of the things Barry, in fact, pushed us at Microsoft was on recognizing the complexity, the heterogeneity of security footprint. And he calls it, like, instead of giving them a Swiss Army knife of tools, they wanted us to orchestrate a security ecosystem that worked for them, starting with identity. Because one of the biggest challenges is you want to make sure that the users don't have friction, but have more security. So this multi-factor authentication or no passwordless future has to be done in a way that user adoption is at the center of it. And that's why the Authenticator app and the way we do two-factor authentication in Microsoft 365 that's being deployed broadly at Coca-Cola is helping Barry ensure that the users are using the security measures that IT wants them to use in the first place. And then the control plane, starting with identity, but going all the way to the ATP control plane, or the advanced threat protection from Azure to Microsoft 365, is something that helps Barry not just manage the Coke estate, but also their bottlers and all the various complex arrangements that they have. So that level of security orchestration that includes operational security, includes the products as well as partnerships, is what it all comes down to. Now, tech intensity is not just about customer engagement and digital transformation or ensuring security and trust. I would say that the work we all collectively do to advance the state-of-the-art of digital technology, reshape our own companies, reshape our own industries, give us even one additional opportunity, which perhaps at the end is more important. It's an opportunity to ensure that the surplus that gets created by digital technology is equitably distributed throughout our economy, throughout our society. Because that's what we need. Just any one industry, any few companies, any few countries getting ahead is not just going to be the solution. What we do need is a real concerted effort to ensure that this next big revolution, driven by technology, creates more equity for more people across the globe. And to that end, Microsoft really came up with the initiatives around AI for good, because AI clearly is one of the defining technology of our times, and we wanted to make sure that we were tackling some of our societal challenges. We first started with AI for Earth, so that we can go after the challenge of environment. This is where we were funding nonprofits research institutions, as well as other civic organizations that were tackling the challenges around the environment. We then extended it at our Build conference for AI for accessibility, where we have 1 billion+ people with disabilities all over the world who can benefit from advances in digital technology. And today, we are very pleased to announce AI for humanitarian action. Please roll the video.
Human rights situation often deteriorate very quickly, and the faster we can get the information and we can react to the situation, it can be a real game changer.
New technologies are advancing so rapidly, and technology companies can advise us on how best to use those technologies to protect and promote human rights.
Our objective is automatic damage mapping, because after the disaster, the government needs the damage map to carry out the effective rescue. If we can save the time to grasp the ground damage information, we are able to save a lot of life and facilities.
In a new partnership with the World Bank, United Nations, and tech industry partners, we'll be better able to predict when and where famine will occur.
Operation Smile's vision really sinks in with what I feel is a fundamental human right.
What the volunteers do for the children may seem like a small thing, but they're able to change the lives of the families forever.
We're creating a chatbot-based experience for refugees coming out of the Syria conflict. Purpose is to have displaced youth find a way to discover and access learning materials. You can engage directly with the course content.
It's just the beginning of the impact that we hope to have with the tools at our disposal.
Whether it is disaster response, the needs for children, refugees, displaced people, or human rights, we can't wait to see what tech intensity you can bring to solve these challenges. Thank you all very, very much for being here. Have a fantastic rest of the conference. Thank you.